الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. Maulana Maududi finds room for personal autonomy within Islamic political order. So by personal autonomy we mean self-determination. So every person has a right to determine his or her own self. That's the core liberal and humanistic value. Personal autonomy is self-determination. That's what autonomy means. And the opposite of autonomy is heteronomy, when yourself is determined by somebody else. So that is heteronomy. So according to this definition, worship is by definition heteronomy. So how do you square personal autonomy with Islam then? So the argument goes like this: Islam limits so you are autonomous, but within the limits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But according to this conception, even though you are bounded by Allah's will, this will is a limit only. Within this limit, what you are doing is self-autonomy as well, self-determination or personal autonomy as well. So your actual ideal is still autonomy, but you put limitation on autonomy. And that putting limitation on autonomy is not unknown to or alien to liberal thought. So in that sense we can say this, or that's why this is what we will call Islamic liberalism. So Islamic liberal and liberal to its core, they share the goal of autonomy. The difference is Islamic liberal limits this autonomy within the bounds of Sharia. But the hakikat or reality is still liberal reality. That's why it is Islamic liberalism. That is, liberalism is the main. Islam is just an adjective. A liberal, on the other hand, doesn't put these limits, but puts some other sort of limit, like universalization limit, social limits, etc. But Islam, on the other hand, Islamic conception is that autonomy is evil, is from Iblis. And the purpose of your life is not autonomy, but worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the ideal. not just a limit, but it's the actual ideal. And according to this conception, we don't accept freedom as a value at all. What we see freedom is as a condition in the sense of choice, but not as a sense of value. Reject freedom as value. So if you reject freedom as value, you're no longer liberal. Your real value is worship, not autonomy. And freedom as a choice is a trial in this world. So you have been given a choice, a limited choice, to choose autonomy or worship or heteronomy. Obviously worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you choose this, then you're Muslim. So yes, we do accept choice, but choice is a trial, not some value in itself. And there's no intrinsic worth of choice. On the other hand, it is a great ibtila or trial. So these are three different conceptions. So Maulana Maududi, although obviously is an orthodox Muslim, but due to his misconstrual of liberalism, he sees compatibility between liberalism and Islam in this way, that both the purpose of Islam and liberalism is the same, personal autonomy, with the proviso that in Islam that personal autonomy has to be practiced within the limits of Sharia. On the other hand, in non-Islamic liberalism, the limits are different, like social limits, practical limits, etc. So in a sense, this is a partial endorsement of liberalism. So Maulana Maududi finds room for personal autonomy within Islamic political order. Within legal constraints, every individual has full freedom to choose his way of life. So then here choice become a value in a sense. Endorsement of liberal values, autonomy and equality, because autonomy is the main liberal value, and once you accept autonomy, equality is a derivative value of that, because autonomy is the belief that every person is autonomous, and equality is the belief that they are equal in this right to personal autonomy as persons, irrespective of their origins or other contingent factors. So endorsement of liberal values, autonomy and equality leads to an endorsement of liberal institutions. So once you accept liberal values, then you naturally accept liberal institutions, because liberal institutions are embodiment of and so institution, their function is to establish and sustain social order according to a specific value system, for example. So institutions basically operationalize and values So once you accept liberal values, you are bound to accept liberal institutions, which basically operationalize at the social level, at the level of social order, those values. So the president of the state must be elected by the Muslims. So that's the limits on personal liberalism. The election must reflect the free, uncoerced will of the Muslims. So choice and autonomy is important here, but autonomy is that of Muslim because it's Islamic liberalism. So in that sense, the social order which it establishes is not the personal autonomy within the bound of Sharia, for example, limits of Sharia, that establishes Islamic liberalism, Islamic liberal order. And Islamic liberal order is the order which is liberal, but within the limits of Islam. So the purpose is still personal autonomy should be prosper, and the free will of Muslim people to be materialized, but within the limits of Sharia, because that's what make it Islamic liberal order. So you still have elections, but within the limits of. You still have parliament, but within the limits of Islam. You still have president, but within the limits of Islam, that is Muslim. So basically this is Islamization of liberalism. So liberalism within the limits of Islam. But the ruh, the soul of the system, the basic value is liberalism, that is personal autonomy and sanctity of choice and all that, and freedom as intrinsic value in that sense. And obviously this is a justification of liberalism, albeit a partial justification of liberalism, and in that sense it is different from orthodox Islamic political and social order. So it might create a Muslim society, Sharia-based society, but it will never create a Muslim civilization. Maulana Maududi argues that a well-defined and permanent Shura representative of the Muhajirin, the Ansar and allied tribe existed in the time of Prophet ﷺ. So then he is retrospectively reinterpreting Islamic history according to liberal values. So describing the Islamic society in Medina as a semi-liberal society, democratic society. Maulana Maududi argues that a well-defined permanent shura of representative of the Muhajirin and the Ansar and allied tribes existed in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Obviously, shura existed according to the Nas of Quran Kareem, but shura is how you interpret shura. The liberal interpretation of shura is to construe it as a parliament. On the other hand, shura according to Islamic tradition is an administrative unit. It's not a legislature. That's the basic difference, and in Islamic history you won't find any legislature. So it is a truly liberal institution, which predates democracy as well, because it's a liberal institution par excellence. Parliament. They were true representative of the Muslim tribe. Representation also existed, but again, like Shura, al-Irafa, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said, al-Irafatu haqqun. But al-Irafa, you can translate al-Irafa as a representation. But the concept of Irafa as against liberal democratic conception of representation is the concept of representation in liberal order is that of legislature primarily, and representing the will of people. So they are in that sense legislature and interpreters of the will of the people. But al-Irafa in Islamic sense is an administrative body, and it's an administrative institution, so that things can be done smoothly, especially when the society grows, when Islamic the function of Islamic society and state expands. And also, in a sense, it is a financial institution, al-Irafa, in the sense that in Islam there's a conception of private property, so you can't use people's money and wealth and property without their sanction, irrespective of their Muslim or not. So if people are so especially when the government uses resources which are public property, they have to consult a member of public in order to use it, for example. So one of the function of al-Irafa was to get people's permission and see what is their opinion on the use of their property, because you can't use their property without their permission. So these are the two. And other is administrative. If you want to distribute something, or if you want to know the opinion of people, then obviously it's very hard to ask them one by one. So if they have representatives who can consult them and bring back their opinion, it is administratively convenient to do so. So these are two functions of al-Irafa, and one of the two functions of al-Irafa in Islamic institution, which is totally different from representation as a representation of the will of the people and interpretation of that will, which is ultimately related to the legislation and legislature rather than to administration as it is in the Islamic institution. So Maulana Maududi argues that a well-defined and permanent shura was there. They were true representative of Muslim tribe. Had elections of the modern tribe based on universal franchise had been held, same people would have been elected. At voting, there was no one else in the society who would have enjoyed the confidence of the Muslims. They thus joined the Majlis Shura through a process of natural. Thus, at the era of Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the institution of Majlis Shura had been established and constitutional provision for its continuous existence had also been formulated. But as I said, Shura in Islam is an administrative unit, not a legislature. And election as a mean to elect the Imam or the Imam, the Amir, or his associates can be done through election. But obviously those elections are not based on seeking the will of people as such, because those who can be elected are only those people who are who embody the conditions and fulfill the prerequisites for the office of the Amir or his associates. And that election is not based on the will of people as such. And basically in Islamic society, the people who elect or choose their leader are the people who have certain qualifications, and those qualifications are based on knowledge and taqwa, not on winning the desires or the approval of the people as such. So that's the basic difference which Maulana Maududi ignores here. Okay, so we'll stop here and then we'll continue from here next time, inshallah.